Inside this video topic, we'll discuss a very interesting concept of web development, and that is about web crawling. Yes, friends, inside this video topic, which will be a single video course, inside this course, we'll create a custom plugin that can be used for website crawling. Yes, inside this custom plugin, we'll pass our website URL like any of the third-party link, and automatically, by the help of that plugin, we'll crawl its title like meta images, links, and much more things. So inside this very interesting video, we'll go and create a custom plugin inside WordPress which can be used for website crawling. Now for this very interesting course, what is our course plan? So course plan is very simple. We have to create a custom plugin inside WordPress which can be used for website crawling. So it means inside this custom plugin, first we have to create an interface. By the help of that interface, we'll take the user input value as the website link. So whenever the user will pass the website link, so we'll have a button called submit or crawl website. So whenever the user will press on crawl website button. So by the help of custom plugin code or custom plugin logics, we need to fetch the title tag of that website, meta description of that website, and then after we need some HTML elements. So HTML elements will contain the heading tags from H1 to H6, then after the images tags and the link attributes. So the link means anchor tags of that website. So overall, we have to crawl by the help of this custom plugin, that is title tag. Meta tag means meta description, headings, images, and links. And finally, after getting overall all these data, also we have to display a report inside this custom plugin. And one more thing, friends, if you think this video is really very helpful to you, so please do a like to this interesting video. Please subscribe to this channel so that I'll be motivated to create more amazing contents for this YouTube channel. And now let's get started to this very interesting journey to create this custom plugin of web crawl development. Now for this web crawl plugin development, this setup I will consider it's a WordPress setup of my local host. So if I go to plugins, now inside this plugins list, we don't have any web crawl plugin. So what I will do, I will open this like WordPress setup into my VS Code editor. Let's go to VS Code. So this is what we have that setup. And one more thing, let's make this time this editor to dark theme mode. So click on settings, then after choose themes, then color themes. And here we have some option and that is dark, Visual Studio Dark. So click on this option and now we have the dark mode enabled. So what we'll do, let's go to WP content, then plugins because we have to create a custom plugin for web crawl. Now inside this plugins folder, let's create our plugin folder first, and that is, I will say web crawl. Now inside this web crawl folder, let's create the plugin main file and I will say webcrawl.php. Now let's quickly add some PHP comment lines so that this custom plugin will be introduced into WordPress setup. So let's quickly write some PHP comments. So this is multi-line comment syntax. So plugin name, I will say, let's say web crawler. Then after description, I will say crawl website data. And inside this, like what type of data we read, so that will be called title tag, then meta description, then headings, then images and links, and finally it will display a report. Now let's quickly add version number of this plugin. So I will say 1.0 author. I will pass my name here. Now if I save these changes, let's go back to browser. If I reload, and now inside this plugins list, and now we can see web crawler. So this is the plugin name. Here we have the plugin description, this is author name and version number. Now let's go to VS Code. Now here I want that this will be a custom plugin, like this will be a plugin of WordPress website, so no longer the code will execute standalone inside any of the PHP application. So for that I will put a condition, and that is if not defined, And inside this, I will pass a constant name called absolute path, that is ABS path. So this constant basically provided by WordPress. So once we try to execute this setup like this PHP file stand alone into browser, and if this constant is not available, automatically exit from here. Now next, let's say that I have installed this plugin into WordPress website. So I will create first a class because this plugin will create using class-based concept. Now here I will say class web crawl, or let's say web crawler is a class, and inside this let's define our construct function. So public function, we have some spelling mistake, function, then double underscore construct, and inside this construct first I will define some action. So this plugin, what basically we need, so whenever if this plugin will be installed or activated, we have to create a plugin menu inside WordPress admin panel. What is admin menu? If I go here, so as we can see inside this dashboard, inside this WordPress dashboard, here we have a dashboard menu, post, media. So I want that whenever if this plugin will be activated, I want to add our own plugin menu right here in some places. Now to add custom plugin menu inside this WP admin, let's go back to VS Code. Then I'll go to this construct function and I will make use of one of the action hook of WordPress. So first, I'll use a function of WordPress called add action. Look at IntelliSense. Then we have to pass the hook name, and the hook name is admin underscore menu. Now inside this second argument, look at IntelliSense, we have to pass the callback. So callback is nothing, the handler function. By the help of that, will create our plugin menu. So one more thing, as we're using this class-based technique to create this plugin, so all those functions or all those handlers what will define inside this class will be known as methods. So to create, to call any method of this class, we need an instance or object of this class. So here, inside this second argument, we have to pass the callback function name. So that function is a method of this class, so I will pass first an array, then object of this class, and then after the function name or the method name of this class, and I will say add plugin menu, or let's say web crawler plugin menu. Let's copy this function name or method name. Then I'll go here. So public function web crawler plugin menu. Let's add quickly a single line comment. This will add a plugin menu to WP admin. Now here I'll make use of one more function of WordPress, and that is add menu page. Now this is a function of WordPress. By the help of that function and some argument values, we are able to add our plugin menu inside WP admin. So first argument we have to pass the page title. So let's say web crawler. Now then we have menu title. So I will pass same value called web crawler. So capability, it means what type of user label will have the access of this plugin menu. So I want super admin or admin of WordPress website can access. So let's pass the capability called manage options. Now then after the menu slug, so I will say web hyphen crawler. Now then we have to pass the callback. So callback same remains, the concept will be same, like whenever if we click on this menu title like the menu web crawler, what things we want to execute. So those things will be defined into that method. So that method is also a part of this class. So I will call that method using this object, and here let's say handle web crawler menu click. Now, rest of the arguments of this function are optional, as we can see icon URL and position. So let's keep as it is. Now for the time being, we are using only the page title, menu title, capability. Here we have the menu slug, and then after the callback function. If I do some formatting, and now let's copy this method name. So handle menu, like so public function and the function name. And inside here for the time being, I will say echo within h1 element. Let's say welcome to online web tutor class. Now if I save these changes, if I go, let's reload. Now click on activate and now we can see plugin activated but no menu created inside this WordPress panel. So this is why, because here we have this class. So first, if we want to execute any of these things from this class, we need to call this class. So let's copy this class name and I will call using new keyword. Save these changes. Let's go here. Plugin is already activated. If I reload, and now we can see inside this left hand side, here we have one more plugin menu called Web Crawler. Let's click into it. And now we can see welcome to online web tutor class. Now instead of this static message, let's create a form. That form will contain the input text where the user can enter the website link. Let's go back to VS Code. So this is our callback function where we have that static message. So let's remove first this echo. Then I will go and add PHP closing tag and PHP opening tag. And this is because I want to add some HTML code inside this method. So here I'll go and first add, let's say div with class wrap. Now this wrap class is a WordPress defined class. Now then after also I will add one more class here and I will say web crawler hyphen wrapper. Now then after inside this div, let's define a h1 tag and I will say web crawler. And then after let's define a p tag. I will pass a class called description. And inside this p tag, let's say enter a website URL to extract the metadata like title and meta description, then headings, extract the metadata, headings, images, and links. Now after this p tag, let's add a form tag and inside this action attribute JavaScript, I will pass a void link. And also inside this form tag, let's add an ID attribute and I will say web form. As I told, inside this form, we want an input type text where the user can enter the website URL. So here, let's take input type text. I will say name equals to website, ID equals to website, and placeholder, let's enter website URL, and let's pass an example URL here. So inside this parenthesis, I will pass https // example.com. And also inside this form tag, I'll create a submit button. So button, and let's say crawl website. And inside this, let's pass some attribute. To type equals to, it will be submit. Let's pass class and class equals to ptn-crawl. So successfully, now we have a div tag, it's a parent tag, and inside this we have each and everything. If I save these changes, let's go back to browser. If I reload, and now we can see here we have the simplest UI like web crawler, enter website URL to extract the metadata, headings, images, and links. Here we have an input tab text where the user can pass the website URL. So once they will click on this button, it will decide like it will get first all those data like metadata contains title, meta description, headings, and all these things and create a report here. Now, one more thing, like behind the scene, I have some CSS to create a eye-catching design for this layout. So if I go here inside this untitled one, here we have some CSS. So what we can do first, I'll go into plugin folder. Let's create a folder called assets. And inside this assets folder, I'll create a file called style.css. Now inside this style.css, quickly I'll go and copy all these code from here. Now it is containing the layout design of this page as well as including the reports. So if I go, let's copy, and don't worry, I will drop each and every CSS of this style.css to the description of this video. Now here we have the complete CSS, and also inside here also I have a section of icons. Let's copy this globe icon and I will pass here, let's say web crawler. And one more thing, this is style.css, but it will not work. And it is because we have to create the link of this style.css with plugin main file. So here I'll add one more action hook called add action. And this plugin is for admin panel. So I will use the action hook called admin in queue scripts. And then after, let's pass the object of this class add, or we can say web crawler plugin assets. Now after this, let's copy this function name, and here let's say public function name. Let's quickly add a single line comment for this method. So it is going to add plugin assets. So assets may be like CSS or JavaScript to plugin. Now then after, inside this function, I will make use of one more function of WordPress, and that is going to add style.css to with plugin. So here it will be WP in Q style. It's a WordPress function. Now inside this function, first we have to pass the handle. Handle is nothing, it's a unique identifier of this file called style.css. So here I will say, let's say web crawler wc hyphen style. This is unique identifier of that file. Now inside the second argument, we have to pass the path of that file. So source file path. Now this file is coming from this plugins folder, web crawl and assets. So here I will pass, or I will use one more function of WordPress, and that is plugin dir URL. Now this function is going to return the path like the URL up to this plugins folder. Now after getting the plugins folder path, then we have to also go inside web crawl and assets. So here I will pass double underscore file and double underscore. Now it is going to return the path up to this web crawl. Now then after, also we have to go into assets folder, and then we have to include style.css. Now successfully we have created this style.css link with this plugin. Now if I save these changes, and one more thing, if I go to style.css, so here we have web crawler wrapper. Already we have used inside this div tag. Then here we have description. So we can see h1 tag description. Then here we have the ID called web form, and here we have web ID web form. So all these selectors now matching with this style.css. Save all these changes. If I go, let's reload. And now we can see here we have some eye-catching design of this web crawler. And here, now inside this web crawler, this is something a description of this plugin. Then here we have the input where the user can enter the website link. And here we have the button. So once the user will pass something here, click on crawl website. We have to add our logic to extract the title, meta description, headings, images, and links. And after getting all those reports, also we have to display here. So what we can do, just go inside this plugin folder structure. Let's create a folder called includes, and inside this includes folder, let's create a file called web crawler report .php, and also inside these assets, let's create a file called script.js, because I want whenever the user will click after passing the value into this box, click on this call website, by the help of ajax request, we to trigger an event into our server side, into our PHP code, and all those things we have to get to this layout via ajax. So all those concepts we can define inside this script.js file. So first thing first, let's create a link of this script.js to this plugin main file. So here inside this plugin assets, this is for CSS. Now let's add for JS file. So WP in queue, it will be a script. Let's pass the unique identifier. So web crawler, and it will be a script. Then after source file path, so plugin dir URL, double underscore file and double underscore. Then after also we have to go into assets folder, and here we have script.js. Now inside this third argument, we have to pass dependencies. So this JS file is going to depend on jQuery, because by the help of jQuery and provided method called Ajax method, we are going to trigger our Ajax event. So here, instead of using third-party jQuery CDN link or jQuery library, we want to use the inbuilt WordPress jQuery plugin file. So here inside this dependency, let's pass an array, and inside this array, just pass jQuery. All things done. Then after we have to pass the version number. Let's pass 1.0, and here arguments option, let's pass true here. Now successfully we have added script.js with plugin main file. So if I go here, let's add some comment, plugin custom script file. If I save these changes, let's copy this wc-script. If I go, let's reload. Press Ctrl U or right click view page source, and if I search here, and now we can see WC script. So if I click on this file link, and here we have that comment what basically we have added inside script.js. And one more thing, as we are going to use the Ajax request, so obviously we need an URL. So to get the Ajax URL inside WordPress, let's go here, add some more variables like Ajax URL. So here I have to use one more WordPress function, and that is WP localize script. So WP localize script, it's a WordPress function. So handle, it's again a unique identifier. So I want what variables we want to add, those variables we'll get this handle what we have with this script.js. Then we have to pass the object name. So I will say web crawler object, or let's say web crawler vars. This is only your object name. And then after inside this third argument, let's pass an array. And inside this array, we can define the properties of this object. So I want for the time being only a single property, and that is Ajax URL. So Ajax URL will be the property for this, like for this object. So inside this Ajax URL, to get Ajax URL of WordPress, we have to use a function called admin URL, and inside this function, we have to pass admin ajax.php. All things done. If I copy this wc vars, let's go here, and if I reload this source code, let's search. And then now as you can see that here we have WC vars, which is an object, and inside this object, look at here, we have a single property called Ajax URL, and this property is containing the Ajax URL, complete Ajax URL of WordPress setup. Now let's go back to VS Code. Then after I will go to this script.js. Let's quickly define our Ajax code. So jQuery document got ready. Let's pass function. I will pass dollar, and inside this function for the time being, if I type console.log script.js file of web crawler. Now save these changes. If I go, let's inspect, go to console tab. If I reload, and now we can see script.js file of web crawler. Now let's go here, and first I will remove, or let's keep as it is. Now then after, so as we have inside this web crawl, here we have a form tag. So I want whenever if this form will be submitted, I want to pass the website URL from this input type text to our Ajax URL. So let's copy the ID of this form. Then I will go here, form submit via Ajax. So this is form ID on submit function. Let's pass event object, and here by the help of this event, I will call prevent default. Now, at this point, if I will ask a question from you that what is the purpose of this line that is event.prevent default? So if you have no idea, so let me explain that. As we know, this is an ID of this form, and inside this form, here we have a submit button. So remember, what is the default behavior of a form? So whenever if this button will be clicked, this form will get reload. So to restrict the form reload, here we have used the concept of event.prevent default. It means the default behavior of this form submission, which will be automatically will be restricted by the help of adding of this line. Now in the next line, I want that whenever if user will pass any website URL here, click on this scroll website button. Then after, the user will get some notification or some message that the crawling of that website now started. So here let's add a div tag. I'll add, let's say, results ID attribute. Let's copy, go here, and inside this ID, let's add HTML element, and I will add p tag. And inside this p tag, if I go here, let's copy this icon, and I will pass this icon, let's say crawling started, please wait to get reports. Now if I save these changes, let's go here. If I reload, if I pass this 33schools.com as a website link, click on crawl website, and we are not getting anything here. Let's hard reload. So Control F5. If I pass, click on crawl website, and it is not coming. And okay, let's save these file changes. Let's go and reload. Pass this URL, click on this button, and now we can see calling website, please wait to get reports. So then after, what we have to do, we have to trigger an Ajax request so that this website URL we can pass to the Ajax URL what we have inside this Ajax URL property. So what we can do, just go here. So first thing first, let's get the website link from that input. So const, let's say website URL equals to, and if I check ID, so this is website dot val. Now this website URL will contain the input value of that input type text box. Now let's copy. Then after, let's trigger Ajax request. So here dollar dot Ajax, and inside this Ajax, let's pass an object, and inside this object, first parameter will be, or the first property will be called URL. So URL. Now to get the Ajax URL, remember already inside the source code, here we have wc vars. Just copy, put here, which is an object, and inside this object, we have property called Ajax URL. Now then after, let's pass some data. So to this Ajax URL, I will pass two data called action, and action will be called website underscore crawl. And then after, the website URL, so let's say website URL, and this website URL is coming from this constant called website URL. And here, let's quickly add some more properties called method. It will be, let's say, post, then after success, after getting result, let's say in response. So if I say console.log, and let's say response, and one more parameter I need to add called data type, so that I will get the JSON data from response. And in case of error block, like in case of error result from server, it's error function. And inside this function, I will pass HTML, put here, and inside this p tag, let's add a class called error. And here I will say something went wrong. Please try again. Now, if we get the success response, so let's copy and put here. And for the time being, let's say data fetched. Now, if I save these changes, now this Ajax will not work because here we have the action. Now, here we have the URL, but no code at server side. So, what we can do by the help of this action, let's copy, go inside this web crawl.php, go into its construct method, and here add Ajax handler. So inside WordPress, we have an action hook that is add action first, and inside here we have called WP underscore Ajax. Now inside this WP underscore Ajax, by the help of this action hook, we can first catch our Ajax request and successfully handled by the help of this callback function. So the syntax is WP underscore Ajax underscore action value. So here in our case, the action value is website crawl. Just copy, remove this one and paste here. Now the hook name is WP underscore Ajax underscore website crawl. And remember, this is our custom action name. Now then after, let's add the object of this class because we are trying to call a method from it. And here, let's Ajax handler. If I copy this method name, then I will go to the bottom of this file, let's say public function and function name. Now for the time being, if I will get this website URL, let's copy this key, go here. So it will be website URL, post and website URL. And for the time being, if I use the function called WP send JSON, which is a WordPress function, look at IntelliSense, we have to pass response, status code, and flags. So I will use only response here. So let's pass an array, and I will say status equals to true, and here let's say website link equals to website URL. Now, if I save these changes, so how it works? So whenever if we click our submit button, this form will get submitted. So this will not do any page reload because here we have event.prevent default. Now then after it will take the website URL first, it will display a message to users that is crawling started. Now, after taking this website URL, then it is going to trigger our Ajax request. So here we are passing our action. Now, by the help of this action name, it will trigger this action hook, and this action hook will call this Ajax handler, which is a callback method. And here it will get that website URL from this data website URL, and simply for the timing it will return these two data. Now if I save all these changes, let's go here, and if I reload, go to network tab, pass here, first I will clear, click on crawl website. Now inside this network tab, inside this admin ajax.php, just click into it, and now we can see from server response here we have like a status and website link. And also, if I go to this payload tab, now we can see that after triggering this Ajax request, now what data we are sending? So we are sending to our Ajax URL as action and website URL. And in response, we are getting inside this preview tab or inside this response tab. Now this is the simplest concept that how to trigger AJAX request inside WordPress. Now in the next concept, let's go here inside this AJAX handler, and now we have to start the main concept of this plugin, and that is website crawling. Now to start with the main concept, first I'll go and add a single line comment that is crawl website logic. So here, as you know that here we are getting the website URL, what basically we are sending into payload. So let's get, and I'll use a PHP function called escape URL raw. It's a PHP function. Let's pass here the value, and then after, first I'll use a WordPress function to get the remote data of that website URL. I mean that whenever if we pass this URL to a function of WordPress, it will get all the contents of that link and store into this response variable, and that function will be called wp underscore remote underscore get. Now here, look at IntelliSense, we have to pass the website URL, so just copy and put here. Now this function is going to return all the contents of web URL to your response variable, because obviously here we have it stored into response variable. Now then after, what we can do, if suppose if we have any error while getting the content from this website URL, so in that case also inside WordPress we have a function called is wp error. If we have error inside this response, so in that case let's say wp send json error, and we can pass the value. So let's pass an array, and inside this array I will say error equals to unable to fetch the URL data. Now successfully, whenever if we have any error while parsing, while getting the contents from this web link, automatically it will return from here. Otherwise, let's go to our logical concept. So first we have to get all those content from that link what we have get from this wp remote get. So html equals to, I'll make use of one more WordPress function, and that is wp underscore remote underscore retrieve body. Now this function will take all the contents of that web page. So here just pass the response variable. Now then after, let's create or let's make use of the DOM document class of PHP, so that by using DOM document class, which is an inbuilt class of PHP, and some methods, we can easily read the HTML elements like title, meta description, like our heading tags, images, and anchor attributes. So DOM here, or let's say DOM object equals to new, and I will call DOM documents. Now this is an inbuilt class of PHP. Now then after, let's say DOM object, and I will call a method called load HTML. And here we have some spelling mistake of DOM object. So what basically we have done inside this small snippet of code, it's very simple. First we are taking the URL from AJAX request, then by the help of this function called wp remote get, we are fetching the information from this website URL. Otherwise, if it is not able to get the contents, it will return the error. So here we have the block to check the error response. Otherwise, if we have the content, and one more thing, that content will be in array format. So to get all those data from array format, we have used one more function of WordPress called wp remote retrieve body. So it will retrieve the body part or all the contents part of that response. So we have stored into a variable called HTML. Then we have used a function of PHP. It's a class called DOM document, which basically converts a plain text content into HTML content. And additionally, this class is going to provide lots of methods, and by the help of those methods, we can easily crawl the elements, the HTML elements like the title tag, meta description, headings, and what the things we want to crawl into that website link. So here, what we can do first, inside our reports, we want to crawl the title, then we want description, or we may say meta description, then we want all headings like from H1 to H6. Let's store all those headings into this array, and this will be from H1 to H6. Now then we want to crawl all the images, all those images of that link, and finally all anchor links. Now this is what we want from this plugin. So to get the title, it's very simple to get here. As we know, here we have the DOM object which converted our plain text content into HTML content. Now this DOM document is going to provide a class, and that is called getElement, getElement by tag name. So as we know of, like any website contains its title into a title tag. If I go here, for example, for this W3 schools, if I go and let's open source code, control U the shortcode or view page source. Now into this source code, if I make zoom to the source code, so we can see that the title of this W3 schools is inside this title tag. So here, to get the title value, this is the tag name called title. Let's go back to VS Code. So DOM, like DOM object, get elements by tag name, and the tag name is called title. Now this title is going to return the value. So item 0, like if we have suppose multiple title tags into our web page, so we want to read the first title tag. So item 0 means that the first appearance of title tag. So if we check that if it contains the content, so text content, like if the title tag is containing the content, it will return that content from this text content property. Otherwise, let's say not available. Now this is what we can retrieve the title value of any website what we pass as the website URL. Now here we have the meta description, headings, images and links. So let's start first with this meta description. Meta description. So I will use the concept of for each because inside our code, let's say we have multiple meta tags, and inside meta, if I go again to the source code, so inside the source code, if we see meta, here we have name, viewport, name title, name keywords, and as we can see, to get the meta description, the name attribute as the value is description. In some cases, also you can see this D will be in small case. So what we can do, we need to compare if the name attribute contains this description, D is in caps or D is in small case. If this is going to find into our web content, so it means that the meta description is available. Let's go back to VS Code. So inside this for each, I will first call our DOM object, and here get elements by tag name, and I will go with this meta because this code is going to return all the meta tags. Like here, either it is containing the name, viewport, name title, meta keywords, but I want only to read the description. So that's why we have used the for each. Now as let's say meta. Now inside this for each, I want to compare that if str to lower, and inside this meta, if this meta has an attribute called get attribute, now if this has an attribute called name, this is in double quotes or single quotes. So name, like after getting each meta, like here we have the meta, also here we have the meta. So we are comparing the name attribute. So if meta containing the name attribute, and also the name attribute contains a value called description. Let's copy, go here. So first, if meta containing a name attribute and its value equals to description, like this description here, D is in capital, or let's copy this piece of code one more time and paste. In this case, D is in small. So in this case, now we are able to read the meta description. In some cases, if let's say anyone asks that how to read the meta tags of a web page, it's very simple. First, you have to check that like by the help of tag name. So get attribute name is okay, but here instead of passing this description, you have to pass call keywords or title, what the things you want. So just go here inside this and reports. Now inside this reports, here we have meta description. So just put here meta description equals to meta, and I will call a function call, sorry, method call get attribute and content. What this means, let's go again, go to the source code. So if I compare, so here we have the name called description, and it is containing one more attribute called content. And inside this content, look at here the meta description value. So that's why first we have iterated over each meta tag, and from each meta tag, I want only the description meta tag. And from that description meta tag, I want to read the content value. Now this is to read the meta description. Now let's go for headings. And in this case, we have to read H1 to H6. So in this case, what I want, again, the same piece of concept called for each, then DOM object. But before that, as I know that we have to get the data from H1 to H6, so inside this array, let's define first H1 tag, H2 tag, H3, H4, H5, or H6. Now after this headings array, let's say as head tag. Now at this case, at this code, maybe you will have some doubt, and doubt is why we have written this array from H1 to H6. Let me explain to be more clear. So for example, if we have no code like this, so first we have to find the H1 tag. So to find the H1 tag, the code will be for each DOM object. Then here we have get elements by tag name, and this is H1 as heading tag 1. So this piece of code is going to find only the H1 tag. Now again, the same piece of code here we have for the H2 tag, and the same piece of goes for H3, H4, H5 and H6. So to avoid these repetitive steps, what basically we done, we have written a common code here. First, this will iterate from H1 to H6, and inside this for each, let's define another for each, and that is DOM document like DOM object. It will be get element by tag name, and here we have head tag, and let's say this is a node. So to avoid those steps, what basically we have removed, first this loop will start and it will take this h1. Now inside this block, it will iterate this for each will only execute for h1 tag. Now after getting the h1 tags and their values, let's store into reports. And remember, into our reports, here we have headings, which is an array, and inside this array we have to store first all h1 tag. So let's create an array, and inside this array let's say tag, and the tag will be what we get from the parent for each, and that is head tag. And if we want to read the content, let's say text, and here let's say node, and it will be text content. So successfully, first it will start from h1, it will store, first it will find all h1 tag from HTML elements, and then after it starts the storage of h1 like inside this headings array. So the tag h1, the content of it, if we have two h1, so again h1 and the content of it. Same goes for h2. If h2 starts finding into the source code into elements, so here we have head tag as h2, the content of it, and so on up to h6. So this is the common code to find all heading tags appearance, and successfully we have stored into this reports headings. Now let's find our images as well. So images, so for each DOM object, it will be get element by tag name. And here we have the image tag as, let's say, image tag. Now, so after finding the image tags inside our reports, here we have a key called images. So let's copy and put here. So inside a website, like inside a URL, what basically we have passed to crawl, maybe it will contain more than one images. So that's why in case of headings, here we have an array. In case of images, it's an array. And in case of links, it's an array. Because maybe into that website, it can contain multiple headings, multiple images, as well as multiple anchor tags. Let's go here for these images. Now then after, as we know, inside image tag, we have two important attributes called src and alt attribute. So src contains the path of that image and alt contains the alias or the nickname of that image. So what we can do, just pass an array. So first I will get the src value and then we will get alt attribute value. So for src, it will be image tag. Remember, here we have a function called getAttribute, which will read this src attribute. Now same goes for alt attribute. So image tag, it will be getAttribute and here alt attribute. So successfully, now by the help of this code, now we have all those images from that website link. Now here, let's say anchor tags. So same piece of code for each DOM object. Here, get elements by tag name, and the tag name is anchor tag. Remember, means A, and it will be, let's say, anchor tag. So inside anchor tag, as we know, we have like two important properties. First, the href attribute, which is an attribute, and the content of anchor. So first, after getting all those things, we want to store into this links, because into this reports, here we have the link, or let's say links. I will copy, put here links, which is an array, and inside here we have to store some values, and that is the href attribute value and the text value of anchor tag. So to get the href, it's very simple. Anchor tag, and here we have get attribute, and the href value will come from this href attribute. Now to get the text value, it will be anchor tag, and here we have text content. If we want to convert or trim the value, let's trim. If we have like a space inside left side or right side, just use this trim function of PHP to remove the extra spaces. Now successfully, here we have the anchor tags, here we have the images, here we have all headings, meta description, and here we have the title tag. Now finally, what we can do, we can send this response to a file, and that file will be known as webcrawler report.php. So what we can do, just go here, let's start PHP buffer, and then after let's include this crawler report, because I want to display the report of all these things what basically we have crawled to this PHP file. So include, I will call a WordPress function called dir path. Let's include like double underscore file, double underscore, and that file is inside this plugin folder includes, and here we have the file name. So after getting the path of current folder like the plugin folder, it will then go into includes folder, and here we have web crawler report.php. And finally, let's html output equals to ob get clean. And finally, inside this WP send JSON status equals to true website URL, let's add one more, and I will say HTML content, or let's say HTML equals to HTML output. Now after this, just go to this report file And inside this report file, we have to access our reports variable to read each and every value and just print to this .php file. So here, this file has been included. So this file automatically has the access of this variable called reports. So just copy this reports variable, go here. So PHP tag. So let's say if not empty. So if this reports is not empty, it means we have some data. So first, let's go and open and close PHP tag. So I will create div with class, let's say report container. And inside this report container, first I'll print the value of title like the website title and meta description. So it will be, let's define into a table tag with class and I will say report hyphen table. Now inside this table, let's define a tr and inside this tr first, I want to read the title value and the title value, remember, it will come from, let's remove this tr and it will be, let's say td. And if I go the title value, we can get this reports and title. So here it will be, let's use PHP tag echo, it will be reports and title. Now then after, again I will copy the same tr, put here. Now this time it will be for meta description. And in this case, if I copy this meta description and just paste here. Now here we have the title and meta description. Now after that, this is our first table. And this first table, let's add HTML comment lines. And this is for title and meta description. Now then after, let's create our heading tags. So I will add S3 tag and let's say headings. If I go to our icon library, so let's include this icon. I will copy and put here. And one more thing inside this report container, let's add a h2 tag and I will say, let's say crawl report. And also from these icons, let's copy and put here. So this is headings. Now after this S3, let's define a table tag with again the same class called report table. So why I'm taking this report table? Because this class is also defined inside this CSS. So automatically it will create a eye-catching table layout. So let's go here. So report table. And then after, let's create first t head. And inside this t head, let's define a tr. And into this tr, let's say th. It will be tag. And the second th will be content, or we may say the heading text. Now let's go after this t head, let's define t body. And inside this t body, what I will do, as we know that all those our headings will be stored into these headings. Let's copy, go here. So I will use PHP tag and into this, let's use for each. So here we have reports and headings as heading, PHP closing tag, PHP opening tag, and then after let's add tr. So first we have to print the tag. So the tag, remember, we have stored into this tag value. So what we can do, just go here, let's add td. So PHP tag echo, and this is heading, and the tag will be inside this tag key. Save these changes. Now next we want content. So again the same piece of code, td PHP tag echo, it will be heading and the content we have stored, remember, inside this text key. Just copy and put here. So successfully, this is the listing of all heading tags. Now let's collapse. Now then we have to display the images. So within S3 tag, let's say images. If I go to these icons, let's copy this image icon and put in front of this. Now then after, let's create a table with class called report table. Now inside this reports table, we have to read all the images what basically we have stored into our reports. So remember, all those images also we have stored into this reports and these images. Let's copy, or before that into this table tag, let's define thead, then tr, th. So it will be image source. Then here we have the image alt attribute. If I go to see the keys, so we have stored two values of image like source and alt. So to display all these, here we have t head called src and alt. Let's go and define t body. Now inside this t body, I will define first the php tag, then use for each. And here we have reports images as images, or let's say a single image we are iterating each time, so it will be image. Now then here it will be tr, and inside this tr, if I go to check one more time, okay, it is good. So inside this tr td, the value will be for src first, it will be echo image, and if we see the key, it is called src. So just copy and put here. Now if I copy this td, let's paste. This is for alt. So successfully, this is all about the listing of our images. Then go and create the web links like the anchor attributes again as three element, and here let's say links. If I go to icons, now the last icon we have called a link icon. Just copy and put here. Now the same concept we have to repeat the table tag with class called report table. And here let's define thead. Now with each anchor tag, here we have the value of href and text attribute. So inside this, let's say tr, here we have th, and inside this th, we have called href, and here we have the text value. Now let's go and define the t body. Let's define our php tag. So if I go and copy the same piece of code, just paste here, and in this case it will be links. Let's pass link here. If I copy, so in case of link we have the keys called href and text. So put here href and text. So successfully, now this report is containing some tabular format of all the reports what basically we have crawled using DOM document class. Now, after doing all these things, as we can see, this report now returned with the dynamic values to this response. So that response we can get inside this HTML key. Let's go back to script.js file. And one more thing, let's quickly see that how basically we are getting our response into this response variable. So for that, if I go, let's go here. If I reload, let's clear first this network tab. I will pass this w3schools.com. Click on crawl website, and inside this admin ajax, and now we can see status equals to true website link, and this HTML is containing all the data of crawl report. And remember, inside this crawl report we have the tabular format of like the title, description, heading tags, images, and anchor attributes. So what we can do, just go here, and inside this, if I go at the top, so inside this form, here we have results, which is an IT attribute. Just copy, go here, and if I say if response.status equals to true, as we can see also in return, status equals to true. So if status equals to true, so in that case, here results.html, and we want to get the HTML from this response variable, and inside this response look at here response.html. Just go here, and it is response.html. If I save these changes, let's comment this line of code, and if I go Let's reload. Let's pass the website link. Click on crawl website and data fetched. Let's go and hard reload. So Control F5. Let's pass. Click on crawl website. And now we can see right here we have the crawl report, that is title, meta description. Here we have H1 and the text of H1. If I scroll, here we have H2. Here we have the text content of H2 and so on. We can see this is a long report, so up to H6. And inside these images, we can see that this is the source of that image and the alt attribute of that image. If I just copy this alt attribute, let's go to the source code. And if I search to verify, and now we can see here we have the alt attribute value, and this is the SRC. So successfully, each and everything what we can see into this report has been crawled from this custom WordPress plugin of this website URL. Now let's try, and before that try, this is our anchor links. We can see if I copy, for example, this logout, let's copy. If I search here, and now we can see here we have the href link, and this is the title called logout. In case if someone say like you have to also crawl the class values or the classes, what are the classes available? It's very simple. Just we have to use dom document object hyphen or sorry arrow operator and get attribute. For example, if I want to get this class, let's go here. Just go to web crawler, and here we are calling our links, and here so inside this if I want to get the classes, let's say classes, and it will be anchor tag, and just read get attribute, and here just pass class. If it exists, so we'll have the value, otherwise no value. Now to get or to show all these things into report, just go here into this link. Let's add another th. If I will say class, and here let's copy this td, put here, and let's say classes. If I save these changes, let's go, let's reload, put here, click on crawl website, and if I scroll, let's go up to our links, and if I search, for example, let's copy and search. Now successfully, this is the anchor URL. Here we have anchor, alt attribute value, and these are the classes of anchor text. So successfully, now we have completed the crawling concept of any website using custom plugin of WordPress. Now let's try with a different URL. So I am using tutorialspoint.com. Let's copy, go here, paste this URL, click on crawl website, and now we can see title, meta description. Here we have all the heading tags, and I don't think so like this website is containing any h1 tag at this page because it has started from h2. Now if I scroll, here we have h3 images, and then after lastly as we can see that it is containing all about the link values. So friends, by the help of this amazing video, now we have completed a complete concept of crawling website using WordPress custom plugin development. So for this interesting video, please hit the like button to like this very amazing course, subscribe to this channel so that I will be motivated to create new amazing contents. And now it's time to meet into another video. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.